This podcast is proudly sponsored by Dictologic. If you work in the legal, medical, or financial industry and spend a lot of time typing and can benefit from a powerful dictation system, then Dictologic is for you. Dictologic uses advanced Microsoft AI speech technology to automatically transcribe the audio before it reaches the transcriber, vastly minimizing the turnaround times. With built-in legal and medical dictionaries, the conversion of legal and medical terms is astonishingly accurate. Dictologic, like Netflix, requires no installation and is accessible via the cloud from any global location. Simply log in and dictate on the go. It allows multi-speaker recordings to be transcribed into a formatted script. This is ideal for courtroom hearings, interviews and meetings. Just upload your recordings and you will receive a script-style transcript with the speakers, date and time clearly marked. Dictologic has the most advanced and most powerful dictation solution on the market. Why not see it for yourself? For a free trial and demo, simply visit www.dictologic.com or reach out to them on social media. Hello and welcome to another episode of the latest with Law Simplified. I am your podcast host, Fareen Ali, and today we are joined by a special guest. Our today's guest made history on the 12th of October 2022 and demonstrated to the world that the legal profession in the UK is diversifying. She empowered so many from ethnic minority groups to believe that we can also aspire for the same. Our guest has over 30 years experience as a practicing solicitor and is the first Asian, first Muslim and the 7th female president of the Law Society. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so delighted to present to you Lubna Shuja, the president of the Law Society of England and Wales. Hello, Lubna. Thank you so much for joining us here at Law Simplified.
Hi, Fareen. Really nice to meet you, and thank you so much for inviting me.
It's an honour to have you join us. Thank you so much. How has your day been today? Has it been busy?
Today's been a very busy day. Various meetings, back-to-back meetings. The life of the president of the Law Society of England and Wales is very busy. There's a lot to do. A lot of challenges, a lot of members to meet, a lot of stakeholders that we need to speak to. So yeah, it's been quite a busy day.
And we're so excited.
Nice to finish it with a conversation with you.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Lubna. We're excited to learn about your role as the president of the Law Society. And actually, before we go on to that, Lubna, I think it'd be nice to talk about your journey to becoming a solicitor and then the president. Now, you qualified as a solicitor in 1992. You worked in a high street law firm in West Yorkshire for 14 years. You then went on to establish your own practice in 2007 called Legal Swan Solicitors in Birmingham, specialising in professional discipline and regulation. Yes. Can you tell our audiences what inspired you to become a solicitor?
That's a really good question, Fareen, because I never planned to be a solicitor. I think I kind of fell into it accidentally, really. I mean, what happened was I went to school in Bradford. I went to a comprehensive state school in Bradford. And I really didn't think law was for me. I didn't have any role models. I didn't know any lawyers. Back then, we had very few legal dramas on television. You know, I'm afraid I'm that old. There were 3 channels on TV. It was BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV, and that was it. And often in the middle of the afternoon, there were no programmes at all. So, you know, I didn't know a lot about the law. What I did know about it, I kind of thought, well, that's a profession not for somebody like me. That's for somebody who's from a, you know, white middle-class background. Really didn't think that it would be somewhere I could fit in. And in actual fact, When I was at school, I wanted to be a journalist. I thought a journalist would be a great job to do. And the reason why, well, I'll tell you why. The reason why I thought becoming a journalist would be a great job to do is because I had cousins who were journalists. They worked for the BBC. And I think this goes back to, you know, if you see it, you think you can be it. And they used to talk to me about their job. They used to talk to me about their role at the BBC, you know, about the kind of documentaries they worked on. And I thought that sounded absolutely fantastic, really exciting. And I thought I could do something like that. So I actually had a place to do English at university. I was going to do an English degree. And then when I did my A-levels, I did better in my A-levels than my teachers had predicted. And it was at that stage that a really good friend said to me, you should think about doing a law degree. You've got the grades to get onto law. Why don't you do that? And of course, another reason why I thought law was not for me was because you needed to get really, really good grades to get onto a law degree. And I didn't think I was academically bright enough to get myself onto a law degree. So again, another reason why I kind of ruled it out. So basically, I did better in my A-levels than my teachers had predicted. Really good friend said, you know, you should apply to do law. You know, get yourself on a law degree. Even if you decide not to become a lawyer, there's plenty of things you can do with a law degree. So I thought, that's interesting. Maybe I'll try and do that. So I actually got onto a law degree. I got into university. In fact, back in those days, it wasn't even a university. It was a polytechnic. It was a polytechnic. And now all universities, they've all be, you know, now they're all known as universities, but it's a polytechnic back then. Now it's the University of Westminster. And I actually managed to get a place at the university to do law through clearing. And that's how I got onto a law degree. And then as soon as I started studying law, and that was the first time I'd done it, we didn't do A-level law at school back then. But as soon as I started to study law, I was absolutely fascinated. I loved it, absolutely loved it. I thought, you know, all these cases that were relevant to everyday life and legislation that's a framework for how we all live and rules that we all have to abide by, and finding out about, you know, the rule of law and finding about how the courts operate. It was just, I mean, I just loved it. And that was it. I was smitten. And it kind of followed from there. So I had a very straightforward route going into law. I finished my law degree. I then went on to do, in those days, it was called the Solicitor's Finals Examination. I mean, since then, we've had, you know, the legal practice course. Now we're into SQE, so it's already had a couple of changes from then. But I went on to do the Solicitor's Finals Examination. And I should say, actually, one thing that I do like to mention when I'm talking about my career, because I think it's quite important. When I was a lot younger and I was going to university, I managed to get a grant from my local authority, which helped to pay towards my tuition fees and towards some of my living costs. And I mean, it was a means tested thing, but, you know, my parents couldn't afford to send me to university. And had it not been for that grant, there's no way I would have been able to afford to go to university. And I certainly would not have. I mean, back then, loans weren't available to go to uni. Either your parents paid for you to go through university, and study, or you got a local authority grant. And I was very, very fortunate that I got a local authority grant. And I know that if I hadn't got it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have done a law. I probably wouldn't even have gone to university, quite frankly. So, you know, for me, that's really important, because I think it's part of the diversity conversation. It's part of, you know, how do we make sure that our profession is diverse? How do we make sure that those people who are not from wealthy backgrounds, those people who are from disadvantaged backgrounds, how do we make sure they are still able to access the profession and join the profession? And I was very, very lucky in the way that I did it. So I finished my Solicitor's Finals exams. I then went on to do, it's now called a training contract. Back then, it was called articles. Again, I'm showing my age, I'm afraid.
Wow.
Yeah, they were called articles back then. So I did my articles. That was with a firm in the West End of London. Then they're still around. Back then they were called Fladgate Fielder. Now they're just called Fladgate. So I did my articles with them. And then when I finished doing my articles, I got a job with a firm in Bradford. So I went back to Bradford and I worked with that firm for, oh goodness, about 13 years altogether. So I started as a newly qualified solicitor, became head of department, and then I moved on to become a partner, and stayed with them for 13 years. And then I moved to Birmingham. And at that point, I decided this is the right time for me to set up my own practice, which is what I did about, goodness, 16 years ago now, I think it's 16 years.
Yeah.
I count on my fingers how many. Yeah, about 15, 16 years ago. Yeah.
Wow, what an exceptional career you have led, Lubna. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we're going to talk about the aims that you have committed to, and it's something that you've addressed in your interviews and are on your agenda. So we're going to be talking about diversity and the steps and things that you want to do to ensure that the profession is more diverse. So you then became the president of the Law Society on the 12th of October 2022.
Yes.
You made history, Lubna. You made history. You are the first Asian and first Muslim president to have assumed the role in nearly 200 years. A huge day for the legal fraternity. How did it feel?
Thank you. I mean, it's an absolute honour and a privilege, Farine, to be honest with you. It really, really is. You know, I was elected by my peers. I had to go through a contested election, and you know, they put their confidence in me, and I hope to be able to repay that. But without a doubt, you know, the Law Society it's an institution that's been around a long, long, long time. I have to say, I never dreamt in a million years coming into the profession, and even during much of my profession, that we would ever see a president that wasn't, you know, that wasn't white, basically.
Yes, yeah.
Fantastic to be the first Asian, you know, the first Muslim. We've had, you know, I'm the 7th female president. So, you know, putting aside kind of, you know, Asian and Muslim, we haven't had that many women.
That's
the
right.
first female president was in 2002, which actually is not that long ago. You know, it's relatively recent when you look at the amount of time the Law Society has been around. So, you know, I'm the 7th woman, and hopefully there will be many, many more following through behind me. But I mean, it's an honour, it's a privilege. The Law Society has over 200,000 members. So we are representing a very, very diverse range of solicitors from different backgrounds, you know, different practice areas, different kind of firms. So it's a real challenge, but it's a real privilege.
Absolutely. And can I ask you, what inspired you to stand as a candidate to serve as a president? Is there anything that inspired you to take that role?
You know something, again, I mean, I've been so fortunate in my life, because I've had some absolutely fantastic allies and supporters pretty much through most of my career. And, you know, when it came to putting myself forward, the reason why I did it is because several people approached me and said to me, you should put yourself forward for this role. We think you'd be really good. We think you'd be a great president. And they were colleagues, you know, from all different backgrounds. And actually, I think that was what gave me that put the seed in my head. Up until then, I hadn't even, you know, I wouldn't even have contemplated it, because I thought, there's no chance somebody like me could be president of the Law Society. But then, you know, when you have a number of people saying to you, look, you should put yourself forward, we'll support you, we think you'll do a good, you know, it's interesting, because if you find the right people in your life and the right supporters in your life, they will see the potential in you well before you do. They are the ones who will kind of gently push you in a direction that they think you should be going in, they're the ones that will give you that little bit of confidence that you might not have. And, you know, they were the ones that put the seed in my head to say, you know, you could do this. You'd be great at this role. You should have a go at this. And it was after people said that to me that I started to think, that's interesting. Maybe I should think about that. And you know, after obviously it didn't happen straight away. As I said, it's a seed in my head. But I thought, you know, eventually I thought, actually, you know something, I'm going to have a go. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to have a go because let's just see what happens. And I was so fortunate. I was so fortunate because it was a contested election. And, you know, I had a lot of support. I got really, really good. I had a good mandate. I had really, really good support. I won the election really well in a good way. And that gave me confidence as well, because I could see that I had so many people that were supporting me and that wanted to see me in that role. And that's a fantastic mandate to have.
Absolutely. Can we say a huge thank you to everybody that has been involved in this journey with you then, Lubna, everybody that has encouraged you to stand and as a candidate for the presidential elections. It's been...
And thank you from me as well, I should say. I mean, I have thanked many of them already, but if there is anybody listening to this that I haven't thanked that helped me along the way, I mean, absolutely, you know, heartfelt thanks from me, because honestly, you don't get to where you are in life without allies and without supporters. You really have to have those people that are right there behind you to get you to you know, into some. And I think actually it's a fantastic example of how much our profession has changed and is changing, because those people that voted for me, I mean, they voted for me because they thought I would be a good president, not because I'm the first Asian, not because I'm the first woman, or whatever. That might be incidental, but they did it because they thought I could do the role well, and I hope I will do the role well. I'm 2 months in now. But I think it's a really good indication that actually people look beyond what you look like. They look beyond your gender, your race, and it's actually, you know what? You're going to be the best person for this job. You are the best person for this job, and that's why you're going to get it. And that's important as well.
Yes, definitely. And it is historical, Lubna. There are many students now that can aspire to do the same, you know, that are belonging to from the ethnic minority groups that perhaps previously may not have been able to have that aspiration or have that dream. So you certainly have made history. You are paving the way for people from ethnic minority groups, from different religions, backgrounds, and as you said, genders, to aspire for the same. So I think that is a huge thing. And so 12th of October 2022 is a huge day for everybody. Everybody. So as
I mean, that's brilliant. That's really fantastic, Farine, because actually, you know, even if I've inspired 2 or 3 people to just look beyond what they thought was possible, I mean, that in itself is fantastic. And I really want people to think, you know what, if you know, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. You need determination. You need hard work. You do need good allies, but actually, you know, if people see that you do something well, they will support you. And it is possible. It absolutely is possible.
So you've mentioned, Lubna, it's been more than 2 months now that you've been in the office. What's it been like, apart from the busy days, and I'm assuming lack of sleep as well, and lots of caffeine? Can you tell us what it's been like for you?
I mean, yes, occasionally there is lack of sleep, because actually it is such an amazing opportunity. You really want to make the most of it. That's the first thing. You know, the first 2 months have been very busy. You know, I have been meeting all kinds of different people, because my role is to be an ambassador for the legal profession. I am an ambassador for solicitors. I also, part of our role is to make sure that there is proper access to justice for members of the public. Part of our role is holding the government to account when it comes to, making sure that they are complying with the law and that they are acting within the remit that they should be acting in. Also part of that role is supporting our members and looking after their interests and being the voice of our members. So it's been really, really, really busy. I've been meeting all kinds of people. I've been working on the themes in my presidential plan, because obviously you've only got a year. I'm only president for a year. 2 months, as you say, have absolutely flown by. I can't tell you how quickly they've gone. Yeah. And you're already thinking, you've done 2 months, and you've not got that long left to try and achieve everything that you want to. So it's been very, very busy. It's a mixture. So sometimes I'll be doing speaking engagements where I will attend events to speak on particular topics around law, around diversity, around all kinds of things that are relevant to solicitors. Sometimes I have meetings with ministers where we want to talk to them about policy that they're putting in place, or we want to talk to them about where we think there are areas that the public are not getting access to justice. So one of the really, really big themes that we've been working on over the last couple of months is criminal legal aid. One of the really big concerns that we have is that there are fewer and fewer criminal legal aid solicitors now. And the reason for that is because there's been no significant increase in legal aid rates for 25 years. And what that has meant is that many of our solicitors that are dealing with criminal legal aid, they just simply can't afford to do that work anymore. So they are leaving. They're not doing that work anymore. So there are huge areas of the country where there is no criminal legal aid solicitor. So, if God forbid you had a family member or, a friend or a colleague or anyone who got arrested, and they, might get taken to a police station, and the police may say to them, do you want a duty solicitor to come and speak to you before we interview you? And most people will say, yes, we do. They may find themselves in an area where there is no duty solicitor available because they're just not doing that work anymore. And if that's the case, then they will have to wait hours and hours and hours before they can find someone who has to travel miles and miles and miles to come to the station to interview you. And that's if they're willing to do it, because actually the further you're having to travel, the less likely you're going to do it, because the rates that you're getting paid mean you're actually losing money rather than earning anything. So it's a real problem. So that's one of the things that we've been trying, we're talking to the government about increasing the rates of legal aid, criminal legal aid, so that this becomes an area that is viable. Because, the consequence of this is that people are not getting access to justice. They're not getting, if we don't have enough criminal legal aid solicitors acting for people, that impacts on how long court cases take. It impacts on the delay in the case. It impacts on whether defendants are being properly prosecuted or whether they're being held in custody for too long. The longer a case takes, you've got victims that are waiting for justice. You've got witnesses that might, not remember what happened the more time goes by. So there are all kinds of implications of this. That's one area that's been a key focus. Another area for us is, we're looking at trying to. So I've been abroad a couple of times already, and that's around promoting England and Wales as a global legal centre, because England and Wales has a really good reputation internationally, and it's about promoting that and about opening up new markets for many of our members. So lots going on.
Sounds very busy, Lubna. Yeah. We hope you can find some time for yourself amongst all of that as well. Hopefully some chill time during the weekend. And actually, we're going to be talking about some of your favourite activities outside of work in a moment. So when you came into the office, Lubna, you obviously received a mandate, and you've mentioned you had a lot of people that backed you, have voted for you, and no doubt you had in place a manifesto, things that you want to achieve whilst you're in the office. We've seen in the interviews, Lubna, that you've mentioned 5 key areas, some of which you've already mentioned. Can you tell us about some of the aims that you have and aims that you want to achieve whilst you're in the office?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I've already talked a little bit about diversity. We know, so let me give you an example. I mean, how diversity has changed. I've been qualified for 30 years now. In December, it was kind of my 30th anniversary as a solicitor. And when I first came into the profession, there were only 709 solicitors who were from a Black, Asian or minority ethnic background. I mean, I didn't think about it back then, but there were very, very few solicitors who were from that background. I'm really delighted to say that, 30 years later, looking at how the profession looks now, we have 18%, over 18% of the profession is from a Black, Asian or minority ethnic background. There were also very few women when I came into the profession, but now 53% of solicitors are female. And we know that from those that are newly qualified solicitors, 60% of those are female. So we know that that kind of statistic between male and female is changing. And over the years, we will end up with more and more women solicitors if it carries on at the rate that it is at the moment. But one of the areas where we're not seeing the kind of same levels of progress is actually when it comes to the senior levels of the profession and the senior levels of the judiciary. We're not seeing solicitors who are female, Black, Asian or minority ethnic backgrounds progressing to partnership level or progressing to senior roles within organisations, and we're not seeing them progress in the same proportions to senior levels of the judiciary. So that's an area that I really do want to address. And another area that I'm looking at during my year as president is to reframe how we talk about justice and how we talk about the rule of law. And we want to do that because it's really important that the public understands why the justice system is so important. Now a lot of members of the public, until they find themselves in a situation where they have a legal problem, and often the public will go to see a solicitor at a really, really stressful time of their life. It might be they're going through a divorce, it might be that they're going through a bereavement, it might be that they are buying a house, or it could be they've got a really complex business transaction that needs to be dealt with, or they've got a dispute with somebody and they need to resolve that dispute. But generally, they tend to come into contact with solicitors at really stressful times of their lives. And, I would hope that those people, that's when they realise what the value of a solicitor is. That's when they appreciate why justice is important, why being able to access justice is important. But, we have got huge areas within the country where people are not able to access solicitors. They can't access justice because legal aid is not available anymore for many, many areas. You can't get legal aid for many civil matters. So one of the things that the Law Society is also campaigning on and will be driving forward is to try and persuade the government to bring in legal aid for early advice. So when you have a problem very, very early on, you can go and see a solicitor who will be able to assist you very early on to tell you, do you have a claim? Don't you have a claim? If you do have a claim, what do you need to do to get that claim going? I mean, it might be something they can signpost you on. Sometimes people don't realise that there are other avenues that they can explore rather than going to court. So, talking about justice, talking about why it's important, that will be a piece of work that I'm going to be working on during my year, because I think that's really, really important.
All sounds exceptional, Lubna. And actually, as a matter of fact, Lubna, I established Law Simplified because I realised how the lay people who can't afford lawyers find the law so complex. Yeah. And so the entire establishment of Law Simplified was driven from that. So I completely resonate with you. I think it's a huge area that needs a lot of work. Because the legal aid cuts have meant that people can't, unfortunately, have legal professionals and lawyers representing them, and tends to mean that there is this inequality in terms of the people that can access justice and those who can't. And it's usually those that come from a lower socioeconomic background that are unfortunately sort of at a detriment. And that's exactly why I established Law Simplified, and I completely resonate with you. So thank you so much for pointing out what you're doing in that space as well. We're now going to do a bit of a quick fire round, Lubna, and get to know you as a person. Can you tell our audiences your favourite hobbies or activities outside of work?
Well, at the moment, there isn't a lot of time for activities and hobbies, to be quite frank with you, because there's just so much to do. But when I do get some downtime, it's really nice just to sit and watch a nice movie, I think. Watch a good movie, bag of popcorn, and just relax is really nice.
That's good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Obviously, if the weather's nice, going for walks, and sitting on a beach is really wonderful, but don't get a lot of opportunity to do that. Certainly not at the moment when it's freezing cold outside.
All of that sounds so good, Lubna. Are you able to tell us a favourite movie? Do you have a favourite movie?
Oh, goodness, that's a good question. There are loads of movies that I really, really love to watch. One of my favourites is, I don't know if you've heard, Cinema Paradiso. Is a really, really nice film. It's an international film.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen it, Fareen?
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
You've heard of it? Oh, well, it's worth watching. It's a lovely, lovely, nostalgic film. That's a really, really nice film. Yeah, so I'd recommend that one. Definitely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Lubna. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're hugely honoured. Can I ask you for any closing remarks for lawyers, for the public members and students who are wanting to enter the legal profession, please?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, don't hesitate. If that's what you want to do, you should go for it. Absolutely go for it. I would say that you should look at perhaps expanding your networking. So look at where you can speak to other people, where you can learn from people. Always, if an opportunity comes in your direction, always take it, because you never know where it's going to take you. You might think to yourself, that's not going to be of interest to me, or it's not something that I want to do, but actually you might meet somebody. So there may be an event that you think, I don't really want to go to that, I can't be bothered to go to that, but you might meet somebody there who will open a door for you, or you might meet somebody that you will learn something from. So it's always good to keep your horizons open, take opportunities, and see where they see where they lead you.
Thank you so much for that, Lubna. And actually, I completely agree with you in terms of networking. It's so powerful. Because you never know where you can end up, as you've said so nicely there. Thank you so much for joining us here at Law Simplified. It's been a huge honour. It's actually quite late in the evening. I mean, our audience members will probably not know this, but it is evening here. And I just want to say a huge thank you for giving up your time this evening. I know you've had a very busy day.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking me to be part of this. It's a real honour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lubna. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The President of the Law Society of England and Wales, Lubna Shuja. I want to say a huge thank you to Lubna for joining us today. Do make sure to follow her on LinkedIn right away. Do also follow Law Simplified on all social media platforms, inclusive of TikTok, and head on to our website at www.law-simplified.co.uk to make sure you never miss out on a legal update. I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, Dictalogic. If you are in the legal, medical, or financial industry, do reach out to them right now to implement the top-of-the-range dictation software, which turns audio transcription and speech into text within seconds. Do head on to their website, www.dictologic.com right now to request a free trial and demo, and do make sure to follow them on all social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am your podcast host, Farin Ali, and I can't wait until I see you on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care and goodbye.